All right.
We're live.
Live.
This is what being live feels like.
This is what being live feels like. So I'm Ben Lustig.
And I'm not.
And
I'm Greg Thornton.
He's not. And as you can see by our names, I include my last name and
I'll just go by Jake.
So we're live streaming for the first time. And we decided to do an experiment. This is an experiment. Eventually, probably tomorrow or the next day, we will be on YouTube as well as Twitch, but they make you wait 24 hours. Let you. So we decided why wait. So basically, our experiment is that we are going to write a spec together, as we always do, and with you, the people.
Yeah. I mean, not with you. We're going to do the work. You can just
That's
watch.
Right. You're like a fly on the wall, watching us do what can be really boring work of typing and thinking in silence for multiple minutes at a time.
Well, the purpose of it wasn't it? We were thinking, how can we give something back to emerging writers who are perhaps also just starting out their journey into screenwriting. Obviously, me and Ben work in a partnership. Not everyone does. Some people do, some people don't. But we thought some people might find it interesting to watch what our sessions in a day look like, and how we work through ideas. And to be clear, we're coming to this. We haven't got the idea already. We're not coming into going, let's throw out 3 ideas and then we already know which one we're going to use. We genuinely don't know. I'm part of me is terrified because I don't know what this is going to be. But sincerely, I'm going. But I mean, ultimately, isn't that day one of like writing something? It's like, what this is.
And that's the thing. I think we wanted to go, hey, let's share our ridiculous, sometimes infuriating process of how we start from literally nothing and eventually make something that we hope that will become a movie. If you don't know who we are, or you didn't read any of our bio, which I don't think there's very much in, Jake and I are professional screenwriters. We have a movie that just came out in July on Hulu called The Princess. Go check it out. It's very fun.
It's on Hulu in the US and on Disney Plus internationally.
That's right. That's right. Or even like Hotstar or Star.
Some places.
And we love to write in genre spaces. Science fiction, fantasy, period things, action, adventure. Hollywood, 8 years ago, 8.5 years ago?
8.5 years ago. Wow, it's almost going to be 9 next year.
Yep, 9 next year. And we've, had a decent run. So we feel like we know a little bit about what we're doing.
And also, nobody knows anything.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Nothing we say, literally nothing we say, is a rule of any kind.
Absolutely. And I think that's And I think that's one of the things I think that we see. We're both on Screenwriter Twitter, which is different from regular Twitter, and that there is this kind of constant back and forth over what is the right way to do something, what's the wrong way to do something, and ultimately there is no right way, there is no wrong way, as long as you're bolding and underlining your slugs.
That's a Screenwriter Twitter inside joke. We'll get to that. We will see. But yeah, I think today we are obviously, this is our first time. We're starting this out. And so we thought we'd start at the very, very, very beginning, which is, what the fuck are we going to write?
Yeah.
And that's a scary place to be. Jake and I, we are always having ideas, and we keep them in a bit of a bank, I guess, a folder on our shared Google Drive. And a lot of times when we are in this place, right, Jake, we start in this, well, should we go back and look at our old ideas? Is that something that maybe sparks something new that maybe didn't a few years ago? And do we want to try that again? One thing we decided,
and let's be clear, like we have had success in that. You know, we had an idea last years and years and years and years and years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago, which was like a kernel of an idea. And then one week we were like, hey, we've got a week where we didn't have what we were working on planned out. You know, we were kind of in between projects. We were like, and we went back to that idea and we broke it into a TV show. Now that TV show didn't necessarily sell, but we wrote it, it got out there, and actually connected us with a whole bunch of great producers who we are actually still working with today. So there is and that script is still us. Maybe we take it out again in a few years' time. Like, you never know what happens.
You never know.
So pro tip number one, you know, always write your ideas down. And even if you don't have time in that moment to fully jump into them, write them down, put them somewhere where you can access them easily and go back to them. And I think, you know, a good idea is a good idea.
Yes.
And sometimes it might just be, sometimes it's just a line. We'll go, was that really all we had? Yeah, it was just, you know.
Yeah, it was
a
file title with nothing in the file.
Sometimes it's a little bit more. Don't do what I think everyone is guilty of sometimes, which is stop working on your current thing because you have this new exciting idea and it's got new energy about it. Because that's very easy to do. We've done it before. I've done it personally. And you know, there is an exciting energy about something that's new, and it can also totally keep you from doing the hard work of working on your script. So but we're not going to do that today, are we? We're going to start off. Are we going to go into the folder, or are we just going to?
Well, I don't think we need to go into the folder. I don't. I mean, we've been tossing around a few things. We've been tossing around a few things lately, and I think we generally, I feel like, we like to start with something that feels fresh, and I feel like we want to do something, I don't know, that's still our brand, right?
So talk about that. What is our brand?
Okay, so brands. So this is an interesting thing for anyone who is trying to break into screenwriting. When you sell your first script, that is your brand for that moment. And that's not a bad thing. If you have a big sale, Jake and I were very fortunate. We had a nice splashy sale with a multi-studio bidding war. And the movie that we sold was a big fantasy action movie. And so
that used public domain IP that had pre-awareness,
and reimagined
something. It was the origin story of Santa Claus, told as a Viking action adventure, basically.
Right. And I think since then, we have carved out a place whereby people in the industry look at us as world builders, as people who understand how to do fun and unique things with IP. We've had the opportunity now to adapt a lot of really cool stuff. We've usually play in spaces that involve action or adventure or those types of genres. A lot of people will tell you never write period. We've pretty much only ever sold period, but that is also, I think, part of our brand. And actually what's really interesting is, while that was our first sale, the first movie that got made of ours was also a period fantasy action movie that took a public domain IP trope, flipped it on its head, and did something new with it. So
that was, you know, in that particular version, obviously we've talked quite a lot about this on some podcasts that we've been on, but it was the pre-awareness was a trope. And the trope was the fairy tale princess stuck in the top of the tower. And our flip on it was, what if she doesn't need rescuing and she can rescue herself? And we wrote The Princess. So it doesn't have to be necessarily it's a retelling of The Wizard of Oz or whatever. It can just be an idea that when you say to someone, we were talking last week about wishing wells. So it's the wishing well movie. You go, oh yeah, okay. Wishing well. Like, you don't need to explain what that is. If you go to someone and say, it's the story about what happens at the bottom of a wishing well, people go, oh, okay, that's interesting, because there's already the pre-awareness of that concept. Yep.
I think there was a bit of a freeze there. I'm not sure if that was on your end as well. We're still new to this, so forgive any technical difficulties or bandwidth issues. So, now, just to be clear, though, not everyone's brand is going to be that. We tend to play in these, what they consider high concept spaces, where you can really cleanly pitch the idea in a couple of sentences. But there are plenty of writers, incredible writers, who don't, and their brand is going to be the really complex drama that you have to describe in an hour.
And also there are writers out there. I think of David Coggeshall, who I deeply admire, who writes horror movies, who writes sci-fi movies, who writes comedies, who has been able to play in all of these different fields. And that's
what he started with, though. I'd be curious to ask him, what was your first sale, and how long before, because we only know your credited movies, how long were you playing in that same space before you were able to break out into something else? It's always, I mean, look, they say one of the best things about being a writer is that you can always write yourself into something new. So in theory, if Jake and I decided, you know what, we're sick of this, we're going to write romantic comedies, we could write a romantic comedy. And if it was good, we could break in as that.
Today, that's
that's not going to be what happens, because I do think there is something to be said for doing what you do best and doing what people are excited about getting from you to a certain degree.
To a certain degree.
As long as you're
I feel like what we did with The Princess was one notch in that direction, because it was a trope. I think we could, I would love to write something set modern day. We keep something that we talk about all the time.
Sure. I mean, maybe that should be part of our goal now. This is how we ultimately come to our place, right? As we go, well, what do we want to write right now?
Yeah.
We have one spec that is modern day, that is in current packaging phases, but we have yet to sell anything modern day. So it would be good to write something modern day.
So maybe we should set that as a parameter. And I think that's, when we, just thinking about when we wrote The Princess.
Yeah.
And we wanted to write a smaller budget movie.
We did.
We did that intentionally. We were like, what's going to be the smaller location of it?
And
I think that helped kind of form the idea going into it a little bit. It's like, what is that thing whereby, you create a parameter and you just live, and ultimately I think it's almost like having a smaller budget on a movie. It forces you to be creative, because it forces you to go, oh, what could that be? I think the other thing that's interesting, and we've had notes from our manager about this, is it still needs to feel like a Ben and Jake movie per our brand. And so what is that in a modern day sense? And I think there's always an aspect of world building. There's always an aspect of what's the one other thing. We had this idea a few years ago for a movie, and that was specifically the note he gave us. It was, that's a great idea for a movie, but what's uniquely you about it? Then there was no world building element. So there wasn't an aspect of one other thing.
That extra thing that makes it, not anyone could write this. This is
totally. And it was interesting because what we had come up with was essentially a stock action movie. There wasn't that one little bit of, I haven't seen that before. And it's interesting because I think about our dear friend Derek Kolstad, writer creator of John Wick and Nobody, and soon hopefully Nobody 2. And those are great action movies, but they're not just action movies. And I think what's been so successful about John Wick has been you wanted to experience more of that world. It wasn't just a dude with a gun seeking revenge for the death of his dog.
Right.
You were in the world of international assassins.
Yeah, it's the Continental.
The Continental. And you can see it spawned all these sequels and TV shows and an excellent Funko Pop.
So, all right. So we're thinking live action, and obviously, and we're thinking modern day, right? We're probably thinking mid-budget. I don't think we are going to
mid-budget mean, Ben?
Okay, so that's a good question. Jake and I broke in selling humongous movies. Our first spec was easily over $100 million in a budget. And that was exciting and fantastic, and it sold to a big studio, but it did not get made. Original ideas have a really hard time getting made at all. And at the 100+ stage, they're almost impossible to get made unless it's a filmmaker like a Christopher Nolan who comes along and says, "I want to write this," and then
or you have giant, enormous stars attached to it.
Yeah, I mean, if The Rock wants to do your original idea, you've won. But I think when you're talking about trying to do an original spec and you're talking about something that you want to sell and that you want to get made, budget is something that you want to keep in mind. And that's something I feel like we learned with The Princess. We said this script specifically, we were at a point in our career where we were like, we have to get something made. And we wrote something specifically that we felt was in a price range that it was makeable.
Yeah.
So that being said,
our mindset on that was between the kind of 25 and 50 range was what we were thinking.
Yeah. It changes all the time. Honestly, and we've been told this recently by every rep we have, nobody knows what anyone's going to buy or why they're going to buy it or what a good price point is. So you take it all with a grain of salt. Like we said before, this is not a rule. But I do think that we're still in a time where an original idea, sub 80 million is probably where you need to sit.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. We are not budgeters. We are not line producers. We don't know what things actually cost.
Whenever I say, and then, Ben, what if we had a dragon? Ben just goes,
But here's the thing. What we do is we research movies that are in the similar genre that we want to play in and look at what their budgets were. It's actually not that hard. You kind of go, okay, I might not be exactly right. Like the Princess ended up getting made for just under 40 million. We didn't think it was going to be that expensive, but we knew it wasn't going to be hugely expensive. And so by doing those comps and looking at other movies, you can kind of go, okay, well, we know that the movie itself, it had a budget of 80 million, but it was also starring Ryan Reynolds, and he cost 20 of that. So the movie really only cost 60 million. And then, take off some other top line costs, and you can kind of go, oh, well, but they were able to have a car chase, or they were able to have this big dragon fly in, or whatever it might be. And you can go, well, if they could do it, I could do it. And there is a certain way of at least guiding yourself in that direction without feeling like you need to be a line producer.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, so mid-budget, so meaning
I mean, somewhere in the realm of 40 to 60 million probably is a good good place to shoot. Unless we could go. Here's the thing about it. I feel like if you're going sub 10, it probably needs to be a horror movie or like a really indie drama that's like an awards contender, and that's just not what we write. I feel like if you're going for something in the sub 20 or sub 30, you could definitely do straight action. That would fit within our genre. But if you start to branch out into anything that's got big special effects or CGI, you know, you're going to end up in the 30 plus range.
Yeah.
And even then, you gotta, like, when I look at the princess and I go, man, I wish they had a little bit more of a budget for some of the CGI effects.
Sure.
So I go, you know, like, it's gonna be based on what we tend to do, it's gonna be somewhere in the 40 to 60 range, I feel.
Yeah,
like.
I think that's
And present day will help that.
Present day does help that. Yeah, completely. Right, so so present day. So
or at least somewhere around present day. 5 minutes in the future is fine.
The 80s is okay.
Yeah, the 80s is okay. Yeah, exactly.
So I've been playing with. There's been a broad idea that's been bouncing through my mind lately. And it's this concept of what if somebody had no soul? And what does that mean? What does that look like? But what would that allow them to do? Could they be a conduit, even for a short period of time, for other souls? And could that be an ability that they have? So say, for example, Jeff is a dude. He's called Jeff. I just named him. Our protagonist is called Jeff. And, you know, old Mr. Miyagi comes to him and says, hey, Jeff, by the way, you've got no soul. And he's like, how dare you? But he's like, no, but you're useful to us in this order because you can house the soul of this dude from this duelist from Elizabethan England and this guy over here. And you could use and exhibit different, I don't want to say powers because it's not a power, but could they be abilities of certain people to do us something special? That's been my thing that's been zipping around my head. But I'm also aware of Cowboy Ninja Viking.
Right, which is
I don't know that a lot. I'm not familiar with it. I know that
one guy who like kind of switches back and forth, right?
Yeah, and he had multiple personality. As far as I understand, it was someone who had multiple personality disorders, and he was either being a cowboy, a ninja, or
right.
Anyway,
I think the thing that I would go, well, that's there. I think there's something there. The hard part about that idea is if your protagonist has no soul and then the soul of, let's say, this historical figure enters the protagonist, well, then does the protagonist become that person? Is the actor who is our lead not a real character? And then are you split between these other characters and who are we actually following?
Yeah, I hear that. Who's the actor who played Short Round, who was just in and I didn't realize it was Short Round.
Oh, in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah.
So he was two different versions of him.
Sure.
You know, he was the meek husband, then he was like the badass guy. Now in that, you felt that he was versions of him.
So and he wasn't the protagonist.
And he also wasn't the protagonist.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the movie wasn't about him.
So could it just be about ability? That's the other thing I've been thinking of. There was that great Brandon Sanderson short story called Legion. And not a short story, it was a novella, whereby in Legion, he basically was such a genius. He couldn't house all the information that he needed in one personality in his mind. So he created multiple personalities. And he could go and consult these different people at any point in his adventure. But of course, they weren't there with him in the physical space. They in theory only existed in his mind. But it was still him. Anyway, don't know. I'm just kind of playing around with it. Like I said, I genuinely, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming not fully formed with this idea. But anyway, I'll leave that out there for the moment.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's got to be. Well, okay, so let's talk about something that was part of that idea, though, which is this idea of powers or abilities. And is that the kind of movie that we're looking to do in terms of a hero with powers?
I wouldn't say powers in terms of zap powers. I would say it's more about abilities. You know,
Yeah.
like for
All
example,
right. But if a guy jumps into me and he was a samurai, and all of a sudden I know how to use a samurai sword, that's a kind of a power.
I'd say it's an ability, but it's fine.
It's superpowers. Yeah, it's I mystically just got this ability. So I guess the question is like, how grounded are we going? And I think this also goes to what you're saying about Ben and Jake-ness.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be interesting to do something whereby the hero is normal.
Totally.
You know, like, and is it about the hero of our story is normal, but that their surroundings or circumstances are incredible, or the world that they discover within our world, the behind this, I'll use like the Continental. Like, imagine if instead of John Wick went into the Continental, like somebody booked a room there and they didn't realize where they booked,
That's not a movie, but that's a great idea for a movie. The family on vacation, finds it on video. Look, this one's really great, honey. And then they get there and it's like,
and they're like, and it's the Continental, and they're like down in the bar, and everyone around them is like an assassin, But
that's really funny.
But in that way, and I'm not saying this in it should be a comedy way either. No. I think it's more like, how do we find a protagonist who is really relatable to us?
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'm getting really kind of tired of in superhero movies in general is kind of all these people who have these extraordinary abilities, and I'm looking for like someone that's like me. And I'm wondering, like, we were talking about Bumblebee recently for another project, and I think that what I loved about that is our hero in that, Haley Steinfeld, is just normal. And yeah, she's got a complicated life, and yeah, all of a sudden Bumblebee shows up, and so the experience that she goes through is insane. But she's also like just a person dealing with her own personal family problems and relationship problems and things like that. I feel like that's not a place we've explored that much. I feel like most of our heroes are the extraordinary thing within their world.
They have a skill set already.
Yes. Or they are the person who gains that skill set within like the first the first act.
Yeah.
And so I'm going like, could we do something different whereby our hero, and maybe they do become extraordinary over the course of the movie. Maybe that's part of the journey. I don't know.
Luke starts off as a farmer.
Right. Yeah, he's just a normal guy. Exactly. What he discovers, not even until movie. Well, he does discover it from Ben, is that his father.
He's a good pilot, I suppose, isn't he? But
he's a good pilot. You're allowed to have skills. That's not what I'm talking about. He doesn't start off knowing how to use it. You do discover that Luke, though, like, happens to be the son of a great Jedi. So you go, okay, there's a little bit something extra special about him.
Yeah. But the point being, what's the story of the regular person who finds
like who's the Sarah Connor?
Totally.
Right?
Absolutely. Like, you meet Sarah Connor and she's a waitress in a diner.
She's just a waitress.
Yeah.
Right? And you go, oh shit, like I get her, and then the world fucking falls apart around her.
Totally. Yeah.
Like there's something, I don't know, slightly appealing.
I'm gonna walk. Excuse me. I'm gonna walk. I need to face.
Yes. This is also, so you've entered. I see that we have one person watching us right now. Hi, one person. You're welcome to comment. Please, by all means, feel free to comment. And this is the being a fly on the wall in our writing sessions. Jake likes to wander.
I like to
I can sit quite a bit because I have a bad back. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it could be. It's not to say it could be anyone, but I think what's so great about Sarah Connor is that they were like, she could have been she could have been an elementary school teacher. She could have been a nurse. She could have been like, it wasn't that part that was important. If you know what I mean. But the fact that was important was and I think what was so great about Sarah Connor, why I love that character so much, is there was somebody who did not feel capable of dealing with the events that she was presented with.
Yes.
She did not feel capable. You know, I think at the beginning, like you see her in that first scene, and she's gets the wrong check, and some kids put ice cream in a penny, and then at one point, I think she says, "I can't even balance my checkbook." It's like she doesn't have, like, if you were to say, and guess what's going to happen? A robotic machine from the future hell-bent on destroying her because she's going to give birth to the future leader of the resistance, and she's got to deal with it. You'd be like, this woman's fucked.
Yes.
You know, you'd be like, and then over the course of that story, she gains the strength, she gains the fortitude, you know, and ultimately is the one that actually blows the Terminator, kills the Terminator in the end.
Right. You know what's interesting about her character, and I was just thinking about this. So many times people go, well, okay, they're normal, but what is it about their job, or what is it about their backstory that can come back and help them in the end?
And it's weird, it's like, what? I know, it's such an odd thing.
Yeah. And the thing is about Sarah is, well, being a waitress doesn't help her at all. It's not about that. It's not about, oh, well, she secretly had gone to med school, and so she uses her med school talents to help heal Kyle Reese. It's like, oh, she's a person. She's a person in an extraordinary.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, she doesn't do like if she suddenly became suddenly became like she was a master in martial arts, she'd be like, I don't buy that because you know it needs to feel real.
Yeah, but when she, you know, ultimately decides to, you know, manages to elude and escape, you're not going, oh, that's impossible. When if she picks up a gun, you wouldn't go, oh, that's impossible. There's no
totally.
You know, you're not going to go martial arts.
She learns how to make dynamite. And again, interestingly, both James Cameron movies, but in Aliens, you know,
Ripley's the same in a future.
Ripley's the same. You establish that she's got a job as a loader, and that does come back.
And it does, yes.
But I think that's an example of like where you go, oh, cool.
Right.
Because you would never go, I'm going to fight this alien with a forklift.
If you jump back to Ridley Scott's Alien, it doesn't.
Right, totally, absolutely. But there's that great scene where Hicks is teaching Ripley how to shoot the Mark 41A pulse rifle. And she's never done it before.
Right.
And he's showing her how to do it. And then at the end, when she's got it,
there's something cool about that, right? Yeah, so all right. So we've got a normal person. We've started. We're doing a movie present day about a normal fucking person. So then it's like, well, what are the extraordinary circumstances? I think that.
Well, again, I'm going to ask a question as well, and it's tone based, you know, idea based. You know, is it something fantastical we're exploring? Is it something grounded in our world, but world building that we're exploring? Is it something science fiction-y that we're exploring? Is it a combination of all of these things in some way? Like I think about, we had that idea a couple of years ago that we're developing with Kirsch that we haven't talked about for a little while, but it was a normal woman who discovered that she was the long lost descendant of somebody who you may have heard of, but started off as just a regular person. But started to experience things that were out as well.
But not quite, because also she seemed like a normal person on the outside, but she wasn't a normal person.
She wasn't, sure.
And part of her backstory even was all about how she wasn't normal.
That's
so
true. Yeah.
she is someone coming to the story ahead of time with abilities and with specialness. I like this idea about the person coming to the story with no abilities and no specialness, but gains those things through the story.
So how does a person like that, and again, maybe put the cart before the horse with this,
maybe,
but like get wrapped up into something like that? Like I think about Will Smith in Enemy of the State.
Great movie, yeah.
You know, and he's out shopping and someone puts something in his bag or swaps the bags over, whatever it is, and suddenly he finds himself with this thing.
Right.
Like, holy shit.
Right.
You know. We had an idea years ago, and I think they ended up doing not this movie, but it was the story about a bike courier. This is going way back. This is like an 11-year-old idea, but it was a bike courier who was basically given like the briefcase that had Marcellus Wallace's soul in it, and a whole bunch of people were trying to get it, and it was him racing across town. But these were not just regular people. These were like, is one of them like the Angel of Death? Is one of them, you know, one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse? And all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I'm just a dude on a bike and I'm in this extraordinary thing. But like, that's something that I think about, that kind of idea. You're given something that has larger, big world import that you go, I find myself with this box and shit, it's got the Holy Grail in it. Again, not that, but that kind of thing. Like, I feel like I'm then a regular, normal person caught up in something mystical that spans throughout the ages, and who or what is after it, and what do I have to do with it in order to win? You know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, also there's the version whereby you do have a second lead or supporting character
who is
different, who is special, who can guide you and train you or teach you or whatever. I mean, and I guess it just depends on how big and fantastical we want to go with it. If we're talking about doing it present day, that's great. We're trying to keep it, you know, relatively makeable.
Totally.
Like, what are the big?
You know, it's almost like
the world.
Yeah, it's not this. Again, just throwing out shit at the moment, but like, imagine if, if you will, waitress in New York is given magical ring that she cannot take off. She's not the bearer of the ring, she's the ring bearer. And the person who was actually there to accompany this item somewhere else was like, shit, you've got the ring. Somehow it landed on your finger. Fuck. But we've got to get this from here to here. Only once we get to here can you take it off. And it becomes a bit of a traveling movie across. Again, we've talked traveling movies in the past. We've talked what's the movie we always talk about?
Midnight Run.
Midnight Run.
Yeah.
But a fantastic, against touching on ideas that I know we've played about a little bit in the past. But what's the, you know, you were given the Ring of Solomon, and we've got to get it here by this day to stop the bad guys, and the bad guys are trying to stop us from doing it. Again, it's super broad, you know, but that idea, somebody who didn't want this is stuck with it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'm going to put something else though out on the table, which is what is the idea, the pre-awareness, the trope, the thing that we can find that is familiar or that is high concept enough that doesn't make you go, I have to explain a lot of backstory here. Is that even possible in this type of movie? I'm not 100% sure. But like, what is the way to go, oh yeah, it's
Excalibur.
Whatever it is. We're gonna do a play on, like you were saying, like, I mean, not everyone knows or would know the Ring of Solomon.
No, totally, yeah, you're throwing that out there.
And I just go, like, is there a is there something where we could go, hey, this is a trope of some kind, a pre-awareness of some kind that we could bring into the modern day. We've had a few ideas over the past where we've tried to bring in those kind of larger
Yeah.
ideas, larger tropes, and bring them into modern day. They haven't always worked.
No, they haven't.
Whether it's been a character or a secret order or this or that or the other, and maybe part of it too is that you kind of go, well, like you don't want to do the expected version of the trope. You don't want to do
That's it. You don't.
well, that's who. Okay, you've just literally just brought what it is into modern day, and I've either seen it before or it doesn't feel that fresh.
Yeah.
So okay, so it's modern day, big deal. You know, I wonder if there's a like, I mean, if we were going, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the magic. I'm on
I'm not sure either. Yeah.
the fence about the magic too. I'm just kind of trying to feel out like what are we going to be excited about writing for the next few months as we go through this crazy process online.
No, of course, and that's it, isn't it? Is that it has to sustain you. You have to have an idea that you love so much at the beginning that when it gets hard, because it will, there'll be a moment when you're like, oh, I just can't.
Right?
What is it?
Push through it.
That you have to love it enough. And we've absolutely had moments where we go, I'm not sure I love this enough, and have left it. So absolutely. So yeah, I mean, like I said, maybe it's not something magic.
Right. I do love movies with like secret underbellies. I loved the concept behind Men in Black. I loved the concept in John Wick. I loved the kind of it's in our world, but you don't realize it was there.
It like exists in plain sight.
What's a version of that hasn't been done? Like what's
the hidden order? It's the hidden order of Postman.
Yes, the post office.
There's a secret thing going on with Postman.
That's why you get your mail late. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that thing, isn't it? It's like, what's the you didn't know this part. I mean,
that's the world building, right? It's present day, but we're still building out a new world. We're saying, oh, but there's this part of this world that you've never been to before. I mean, even if it's not going to be this, but something like the way in Inception, it was like it's the ordinary world. Oh, but guess what? There's this one group that does this one thing.
Yeah.
These insane places,
Yeah.
Is there that kind of a secret that our person, who's just a normal person, ends up either discovering or getting wrapped up in or captured by, or they end up being
I mean, and there's a way of just combining those things, isn't it? It's like this person comes across blank, the secret X of the Y organization, and they want it back. Or there's two different parts of this organization. There's the good organization and there's a bad part of the organization. You've got the Knights Templar, Blur, and the modern day assassins. You probably play on those things in Creed, but like that's an example of. Assassin's Creed. There we go, ladies and gentlemen.
We found it.
That's
holy shit. Yeah, we're just gonna do Assassin's Creed.
There you go.
Funny story.
But I like that. I like that. I like that. The idea of again, like it's not this, but I always liked the aspect of underworld There was a hidden order of vampires and a hidden order of werewolves.
Ooh. What if, okay, I have nothing here. This is literally just so I'm getting excited over literally nothing.
Right, it's all good. It happens
here's a trope, okay? The mafia, right? Like there's a very specific way in which we think of and we see the mafia, and we've all seen mob movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something cool and different that we can do with that's the unexpected version of the Italian mafia? Is there the secret behind the door actually isn't what you think it is? You always thought that Al Capone was blank, but really what you didn't realize was he's an alien, for example. You know, they're all fucking shapeshifters. There's some kind of a, you know, the mob is actually a secret order descended from ancient Rome that still exists today. And what you didn't know is that they're like the Illuminati and they have blank. I don't know. You know, like, is there some way? And it's not necessarily to make them the good guys, because I don't want to like glorify.
Where my mind was going was like, have they like allied themselves with demons? This is where I was going.
Right.
Like, you know, you kind of, they're all having their dinner upstairs. You know, the secret dinner, the guy goes in and they've all marked themselves all up in hexagrams and they're sacrificing someone, and then out comes Bahamut or whatever. I was like Sandman last night, and I loved that first episode of Sandman. You're like, oh, there's this weird cult.
Yeah.
No, that didn't feel like there were a ton of those like weird style cults in the 1920s and 30s, like all around the world.
Yeah.
You know, you go, oh, what's the weird thing that group that you've heard of? You didn't know this. But the reason they got so powerful was because they made a deal with Beelzebub. And it's not just the mafia, there's something otherworldly going on.
Like there's something cool. Okay, so what you were just saying about the like weird satanic ritualistic stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like
time of shoelaces, because I'm coming done with all my rhyming. Continue.
Yeah. What if you had, and this all might be total garbage, but what if you had a backstory, a history of, you know, ancient, you know, BC history in Italy, and there was a deal or something made, and the dons, the heads of these families, essentially were either possessed demons, like they actually like were the incarnation of this like group of demons or some shit like that, or they gain wealth and power,
totally
bargain with Satan or some shit like that. And so all the way now we're in 2022, and the mob is not what it used to be. Now there's you know, other mobs that have taken over. There's cartels. There's all these other things. And the days of the Cosa Nostra being like the ultimate organized crime has kind of feels like it's waned a little bit. A lot of the big bosses have been taken out, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, is there a way in which they're trying to re-achieve their power? I don't know.
I get really intrigued by the backstory. I really like that. Again, whether you see this, whether you hear it, whatever it is, but it's, you know, I was immediately seeing like ancient Sicily and deep beneath in the catacombs of a church.
Right.
And there are these 7 families doing this thing. And they summon this being. And then you realize that the same 7 families today are the 7 most powerful crime families in Chicago, whatever. You know, there's just something rich and interesting about that. I like the background of that. I like you know, the tapestry
Right.
on which to paint on tapestry, but you know what I mean. The canvas. I think there's something really interesting there. The idea of a demon-infested crime family.
Yeah.
Because you can instantly go, well, those are your bad guys.
Sure.
And Sarah Connor,
right?
But like you're going to go, yeah. What's the thing? What you said something a second ago that I liked, which was, they've been waning in power. Why? And it's not because the police have been cracking down on them, or it is. And what do they need? What do they need to do? Do they need to do? Is it 100 years later? Here we are, 2022, and we've got to do the same thing we did way back then, because things are starting to not go our way.
Or is our
something like that?
It's nice to find a way to flip the trope almost, though. And it's tougher because obviously you're dealing with criminals, but as much as I like that they're the bad guys, I also kind of go is there a way to flip it so that it's the unexpected, so that the gangsters aren't always the bad guys? I don't know.
Maybe I hear that. I absolutely do. What's the not obvious way?
Right.
But then I would, yes, potentially bringing it back into the conversation about the protagonist. Is the protagonist one of the gangsters? That doesn't feel like a normal person. That feels like
it doesn't.
Feels like there's do you do something whereby, again, thinking a little bit about The Godfather, the person who doesn't want to be involved with the family stuff.
Maybe.
Something in that space, something along those lines.
Yeah, maybe. This is the interesting process of trying to figure out what that idea is. And I think that for anyone watching this video, you can see that perfect ideas don't just come in one night.
No, absolutely. And sometimes you work at them, and you mine and you dig away at something. You go, there's a nugget of something there. Like the idea of a demon-infested mafia, I really like. I don't feel like I've seen that before. Maybe it exists in some form. I feel like I'm aware of it. And I go, oh, that's really cool. How do these families get so powerful? Oh, there's something else, there's something otherworldly going on. I go, that's really cool and interesting. Goes back to, ancient Italy, ancient Sicily, what's I find that really interesting. We love demon shit. But ultimately, demons bad. Unless, let's play around with the concept of what if a demon was good? What would a demon need to be? What would a demon need to do in order to do something good? Again, I'm not arguing that this creature is our protagonist, but I go, what would a demon have to do in order to redeem itself? Is a demon a fallen angel? Is it a fallen angel?
So in the show Lucifer, the I don't know, second or third lead is this character Mazikeen, and she's a demon who came from hell with Lucifer to Earth. And she's one of your protagonists, and she is a demon. And it's part of her story. And, as campy as Lucifer is, in the early seasons, it was interesting to kind of go, oh, yeah, what would it be like to be a demon and believe that you never had a soul and couldn't ever be anything more than just a demon?
Sure. One of the ideas, and we've talked about this back and forth for years, and I've always liked the idea, and we actually read a comic a few years ago, we almost adapted it, about someone who, and there was a great comic that I used to read when I was a kid called Malice Darkblade, which was, in that particular case, it was a Warhammer comic, a dark elf gets kind of like half possessed by a demon. I think a little bit about that game, Shadows of Mordor, where you are half elf and half man.
Sure.
Half dead elf.
Sure.
What if Sarah Connor got half possessed by a demon that this group had summoned? That this mafia group had summoned, and it didn't go where it was supposed to go. Again, probably because I'm watching Sandman, that very first episode. They're meaning to summon death. They don't. They summon Dream, and you go into this whole thing that happens with that. But what if it went wrong? And I
probably want to stay away from anything possession based because of my other thing that I'm working on.
As a possession.
But yeah, there is something cool about the demon.
The demon.
I mean, look, the reality is, there's something cool about just like flipping the trope of a demon in the way. And granted, they did this with Mazikeen and Lucifer, but she wasn't and Lucifer even as a character is obviously from hell and is flipping the trope on what you think of as Lucifer and turning him into a good guy. So you got to be careful walking that line, but at the same time, I haven't really seen it done in action. And that's where I go, okay, that was like a goofy procedural comedy thing. It didn't take it serious. It wasn't like Underworld with like a fucking demon on Earth who is trying to redeem themselves and gain their soul. Like imagine a demon who was trying to fight for a soul. And that was their goal.
Totally. And that they could inhabit the qualities of different souls at any one point. And here we are back at the beginning.
There you go.
But a demon fighting for a soul,
But like if you were given, let's imagine for a second that an angel came down to hell and said, I have a job and I can't do it and we can't interfere because it's against our rules. But if you can do this,
that's interesting.
I will grant you the thing that even Lucifer can't grant you. I can go to the big man and I can give you a soul. And for the very first time, you could actually live as a human and have the opportunity to one day go to heaven.
That's interesting.
Thus, they're given this job and that only a demon could accomplish. So all of the bad, there's a bit of a John Wicky like anti-hero quality to it, which I actually really like, whereby all of the bad shit that you associate with what a demon can do becomes the things that make this person, man or woman.
This is live. Here's my son. Hi.
We're gonna have little signs again. This is our first episode, first time, never live streamed before.
Mario later, Super Smash Brothers later. Yeah. All right. I love you. Joys of working at home.
Yes. But actually, this could be really interesting.
There's an interesting concept there.
There's something really cool about this. It's funny. It kind of goes along with another idea that we had.
Yeah.
Just a different character.
Right.
I don't know if there's a way to build in that other idea.
I don't think there's a way for Dancing Bunny to work its way into this movie, Ben. But
but I will say that the anti-trope, the monster who can look human on Earth, but is truly a monster, becoming mortal as a prize.
Is really interesting. Yeah.
There's something interesting. Normally, you would be fighting for immortality. Normally, your hero would be fighting the monsters. This is the monster fighting for a soul.
I think that's really interesting.
Bam!
Bam!
And that's how lightning strikes.
Cha-ching!
Bam!
Why don't we've been streaming for an hour? Why don't we pause for today? Have that be a jumping off point of our conversation. The next time we do this.
Next time, maybe tomorrow. We're gonna try and do this as a regular thing. Today was at an odd time of day. We'll probably try and do some sort of a schedule so that anyone who wants to stay with us can show up and join whenever. And this was super fun. I enjoyed it. My only thing would be I'd like more than 3 people at one time to watch. So and then maybe some comments, some fun comments would be good.
Yeah, well,
yeah, but actually, this is cool, and I like this idea. So stay tuned, everybody, because we'll be back. All right. Bye-bye.
Oh, I'm still here. I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No! Help me! Seriously, how do I stop streaming? I got stuck in here. There you go. Goodbye.